governor of its 48-month initial mandate given to him by Anambra. Governor Soludo was elected during a period of a wider disillusionment with democracy and an even greater skepticism about popular institutions. Yet, his recruitment animated the expectations of the people. Given his intimidating credentials, his campaign storms, and his campaign, Governor Soludo raised the bar of expectation. As we approach the end of that mandate, that initial mandate, does Governor Soludo's achievements and governance results meet the expectations of the people? What are really his achievements so far? And what are the challenges? Are those achievements considered enough return on the aspirational investment of the people who recruited him to do the Soludo on X Spaces to render an account of his stewardship? Today's interaction will be straight to the point. It will be interactive and it will offer Anambra yet another opportunity to place governance demands whilst also learning about the programs and activities of their government. This conversation is hosted by the Anambra State New Media Twitter Spaces New Media, and this is just one arrangements by government functionaries. For the governor, this is his second. Shortly after his first year in office, exactly on the August of the 6th, 2023, the governor made his first appearance on Twitter Spaces to offer an account of his stewardship and engage directly with Anambra, making him the foremost governor to have appeared on Twitter Spaces to directly engage with the people. The governor and then also with the radio station owned by the state government, Anambra Broadcasting Service, where he keeps updating Anambra periodically on the job they've asked him to do. This evening, we are co-hosting this. I am co-hosting this spaces. My name is Chima Christian, and I'm co-hosting this Twitter Spaces with Amaka Ezedebego. Amaka, could you say hi to the people before we invite Mr. Governor to give his opening remarks?
Good evening, everyone. Once again, welcome to Anambra State New Media Space Session. My name is Amaka Izidebego, and tonight I'll be hosting this conversation alongside Chima Christian. We're honored to have Mr. Governor, Professor Chukwuma Charles Soludo, CFR, to join us on this insightful discussion on his 3 months in office. Thank you.
Mr. Governor, I know you are raring for us and you're quite prepared. Of our listeners are millennials, they are Gen Zs, and then we're expecting that you speak our language. Of course, Twitter Spaces, Twitter X rather, is not discriminatory in nature. So you also have people who don't fit within that category. The majority of the members of audience fall within that. So to start this conversation, I would love to ask you a question. How are you doing with all that is going on with government? Also a husband, you're also an uncle and all of that, including that of being an executive governor. How are you doing?
Thank you very much, Chima and Amaka, and let me say, friends, brothers, sisters, Anambra, and friends of Anambra who have, joined us on this particular event. I mean, just an interactive session. Let's just have fun discussing Anambra and where we're taking it to. Let me at the outset also say, well, Merry Christmas in advance. Christmas is just about even will be on Christmas. So let me extend Merry Christmas to all of us in advance, and have a joyous season. And we look forward to a more productive 2025. At the outset, Chima, let me say that, well, I am good. You asked how we're doing. I am good because I will always feel good because, and as I say it always, I knew all the challenges, I knew what it is, and so on. For me, this is a mission that was set out to accomplish, not just, it's not another job, it's one that I mean, I'm passionately committed to. I mean, we're all bets of passage in this world. And for me, on the last day, I will be able to give account and say, accomplish, to leave this place better than we met it. But in a summary form, as you rightly said in the intro, I have now been in office for 33 months, 3 years and 9 months. 3 months more to go before we celebrate our third year anniversary. And if I put everything in the context of where the background where we were, the context of where we would like to take it to within the period of our regime, in the context of our promises to the Anambra, and in the context of the resource availability, both men and financial resources, it is safe to say, without any fear of contradiction, that Anambra is strong. Anambra is that with every sense of humility, but also because the facts are there. As I always say, if you cannot measure it, you cannot improve it. If you can't measure it, you can't improve it. And so Anambra is a state that has all the potentials in the world, in my view, especially human potentials to be whatever we will it to be. I applied for the job is because I found that we can contribute, and working with like-minded people, resourceful people, great people of Anambra, that we can actually raise the bar very significantly. So when we came with a huge agenda summarized in 5 key pillars. Number one, security, law, and order. Number two is our infrastructure transformation. And number three is a human capital and social agenda. Number four is a governance and value system. And yes, number five is environment, towards a planned and sustainable society, towards a planned and sustainable communities, markets, and cities. That's our environment. And we identified environment from the first day after our swearing in, was sworn in on the 17th of March, 2022. The next day, that day we walked 8 hours and 45 minutes. There was no fanfare, no ceremonies, no popping of champagne, nothing. I took my oath of office in front of my office and walked in straight into the office and started work with 3 hours. We have not rested a minute. The next day I was in Oboko, the biggest urban slum, if not in the entire country, certainly in the southeast, with over 500,000 people, with absolutely nothing. No roads, no water, no electricity, schools not in any shape, no hospital. My heart was bleeding. And so I started my day. And that you have about 15 kilometers of street roads done with street lights, pipe-borne water running now in Oboko, and with a general hospital for the first time since Adam and Eve came on board. Now you go there, they say it's no longer Oboko, it's now New Heaven. And for me, this is part of, the calling. Take this job as a call. Those 5 key pillars that brought us to this place. That was our agenda. encapsulated in the People's Manifesto. We have been very, very intentional in driving them. The end game is for us to lay the foundation. We lay the foundation for Anambra to achieve its manifest destiny, potentials, to become what I describe, for want of a better word, the Valley. It's not just Dubai, Taiwan, the Silicon Valley, as it were. And if you look at the way we have and become a destination rather than a departure lounge, to become a destination, a preferred destination for people to live, to work, to learn, to invest, to relax and enjoy. And if you see the way we've been driving our investment and running, that's basically a single-minded focus on that. And I'll take them a little bit, just a few 1-2 sentences on each of these pillars, and I open up this for a conversation, because I'm also eager to hear more, to hear than to talk and talk and talk. I want to get the feedback from the people. I know people are going to talk about the areas of their interest. But let me start off with that first pillar, security, law, and order. That was the very first one. Before I came in, and even during my campaigns, 8 local governments, you could know, but none of myself and my fellow contestants, those 8 local governments were no-go areas. And even in my own local government, I couldn't. On the day I had to campaign, they even came these 8 local governments. They even came to my village to assassinate me while I was addressing the youths, and 3 policemen lost their lives. A candidate of Labour Party then was kidnapped while he was en route. He was driving on his convoy. They stopped the convoy and took him away, and he hasn't been seen till death. That's just to give a snippet of the state of affairs when we arrived here. And that's why get onto a security meeting, and we declared a total war. And I said there was no appeasement, not going to appease anybody, not going to negotiate with anybody. A criminal is a criminal. If you are in the bush, you are a criminal. There's no agitation. These guys are involved in what I call lucrative criminality. And we set out a war. We set up a new Ministry of Homeland Security, just to signal our seriousness about it. We recruited about strike force, almost what you call vigilante service, equipped them, and together with the formal security agencies, they went to war. It was a real war, camps all over the place. And to even get them out of Opo, where they had about 3 camps in one community, was full 2 days war, as it were. And that's the way we went on and on and on and unceasing onslaught on these people to be able to liberate these local governments. Of course, the stuff exists. You still find occasionally they come out from one spot or the other, especially around the borders, where we have border with Imo State and Abia and Enugu. Across those, chase them here, they run in there. They chase them there, they run into Anambra. On the Anambra listening to me, is that from the people we have arrested so far, and thousands of them, at least 70% of them are not in the Anambra. And people tell me the reason they flood into Anambra particularly is because that's where they could make money through ransom. That's one basic thing that we've realized. And 99.9% of all. And so much for this lie and propaganda about Fulani and all of that. We're not saying you couldn't find one or the other, but certainly 99% of those who have arrested are our own people involved in criminality. These guys are plain criminals. They are here because they're going to make money. And this didn't just start today. It's been ever there. In 2009, my father was kidnapped. Took him out, and he was with them in the bush for 78-year-old man. I was in the bush with them, a titled man with eliliosia in his ankles. They held him there for 15 days. That was also between 2009, 2011. I mean, a whole lot of who is who in Anambra were kidnapped. That's when former Tony Mas, popular guy, was kidnapped. That's when Poco, the businessman, industrialist, was also kidnapped. GUO Motors was kidnapped. You have this man that owns Banex Plaza in Abuja was kidnapped, and so on. Then we thought the world had come to an end. But these guys have tested blood. Like animals, they have tested blood. They're just plain criminals trying to extort money. And you find an Okada driver who has gone into the bush, successful kidnap attempt, makes 500,000 or $1 million, and all his life he has never been able to get 50,000 or 100,000 together. He will never leave until, you get him out. So it's a war that we are fighting. And these guys, the fastest growing religion now in the Southeast and in our place now is idolatry. Wherever they have a camp, they have their idol. And say they're no longer Christians and so on. It's a very complex kind of criminality because the facade that they put out is that they are fighting for liberation. And so with that, they get the support of the locals, who now see the security agents as their enemies, and now see these criminals in the bush as the liberators, which is paradoxical, very interesting. To go and give them in the bush. We're just, bought about 163 new vehicles that we're deploying on this war. In fact, probably in the last count, more than 200 we're deploying now. We're rejigging our internal security system, the formal agencies, and our vigilante. And we're declaring all out war now because our target is to make Anambra State the safest state in the Federation. Is it in the area of infrastructure and economic transformation? There, we're doing what is quite unbelievable. I must put on record that since we arrived, for the 33 months I have been in office, the total resources we have spent so far is simply a fraction, and a small fraction at that, of what was spent in this state in 1 year. I take the year 2013. 2013, the audited account of Anambra State showed that a total of about 1.1 something billion dollars was spent, audited account. But in the 33 months that I have on here, I'm not sure we've spent up to half of that in dollar terms, so to speak. So it is for context. But regardless of that, we'll refuse to borrow a dime. But we are determined to give value to the Anambra that will be multiples of what they have ever seen in their entire history. So far, we have about 700 kilometers of roads awarded under construction and almost 400 kilometers already asphalted. We're delivering average of about more than 12 kilometers asphalted per month. That's the delivery record, unprecedented anywhere. And the quality that Anambra has not seen before, with a solid stone base, sub-cement stabilization before asphalting. Because when I was campaigning, Anambra people, you ask them everywhere, they tell you number one is road, number two, road, number three, road. Then the Onisha people will tell you clear the touts who are harassing them with their businesses. It's just Give us this and we'll take care of her. And when we came, we declared a state of emergency. And every nook and cranny of Anambra today, particularly those that have never seen 1 square inch of tarred road, now Anambra is a construction site massively everywhere. And then we'll get into our economic transformation. We're very intentional. We're building a new industrial city. We have over 4,000 hectares of land acquired. We're taking direct power to the place that could give Band A, that could give at least 22 hours of electricity. They will awarded a contract. They're taking direct power to that zone from Aguleze, Chukwu, Oboji, Apo, Ndiapales, and all of that axis, and Ikeliomu, as the case may be, about 4,000 plus hectares of land. We're very intentional about rebuilding our industrial thing. Agriculture, we're reinventing the MI Opera's agri revolution by emphasizing our palm and coconut revolution. We've distributed over 2 million palm and coconuts seedlings to our people in 4 or 5 years when they start fruiting. And we'll continue to distribute on a yearly basis. When they start fruiting, an average poor household that has 10 to 15 of those will be permanently out of poverty, and a new industrial ecosystem will emerge, processing this as the case may be. Then is it in the area of leisure? Even as part of our infrastructure, we're building fiber optic cables around the state. About 2,000 kilometers is our target. We've already done almost half of that, going around to ensure that people will have last mile connectivity that will fundamentally change the story of Anambra and put it on the world map in terms of the technology age. Remember, part of our game is to turn Anambra to be the Silicon Valley. And we're laying the foundation very fundamentally. We have, out of the 17 states in southern Nigeria, we're rated #1 on ease of doing business. We're #7 in the country, but #1 in southern Nigeria. And simplifying our tax system, codifying them, and getting our land reforms. Now you can have your CFO in 3 days, as the case may be. We are very, very intentional in terms of our infrastructure and economic transformation agenda. Commerce remains the core for our people. Because if it has to be a Dubai, it has to be a logistics hub, it has to maintain its leadership in the area of commerce, and it has to be an entertainment leisure destination. And these three, we're very purposeful about that in Anambra. We're building the largest open drug market in Africa at Oba. It's kicked off and it's being built with vigor. We're hoping in the next 1 year that will be completed, and at least you'll have thousands of people moving to the place. We're repurposing main market, and they'll probably in our Onisha 2.0, you'll have the hopefully the new. All roads will lead to Anambra. I am told that will be the biggest water park, amusement park combined in West Africa, and a country club, and so on. And of course, a 10-story Marriott hotel that will signal the Oka 2.0 that is designed. We have acquired over 5,000 hectares for that being designed and to kick off. And of course, again, Silicon Valley will set up what we call the Solution Innovation District that has now seen to the trend in initial basic digital skills to over 25,000 Anambra youths. We're building the Silicon Valley in a 13-hectare land where the government house is now, and the first iconic building is ongoing. And very intentional very intentional that, the world, Anambra will be able to have the human capital that is productive at home and exportable abroad. And so that sector, then the youths, our youths, our One Youth Two Skills program that has been able to train in a unique Omo boy, Nwa boy concept, Eba boy of our people, apprenticeship system. Trained 5,000 and empowered them with over 2 billion naira. We're training another 8,700 youths, and they will soon also receive their stuff. On human capital, our health and education, super turbocharged the way we go, because our human capital is Anambra's greatest resource. That's why I said our goal is to produce human capital that is productive at home and exportable abroad. And this is where the concept of the Taiwan comes in. Taiwan is, a small island there with little or no natural resources, but had to depend on mining the human capital, the people, the skills and talent of the people. Our people are highly talented. And so we want to be able to optimize that and give them the education that they require, building the foundations that you leave no one behind. And that is why we've declared a completely actual, it's not just to say free education by mouth and people contribute to it. We give people who've now declared completely free education from kindergarten through to senior secondary in primary schools and secondary schools, in all government schools in Anambra. And that has raised school enrollment by a little over 20% now, leading Anambra to have the lowest out of school children in Nigeria. On health, very aggressive there, refurbishing and getting our primary health centers in the 326 wards revamped, equipped, employed over 1,000 health workers, just like we've employed about 8,115 teachers to teach in our primary and secondary schools. So you end the era of schools without teachers, and also end the era of hospitals and higher health centers with no medical personnel, as the case may be. Building the tertiary institutions, building 5 new general hospitals, remodeled 3 existing ones, building new nursing schools, and Amako is having the biggest trauma center. Somebody says it's going to be the biggest in West Africa. I don't know, but I know we're just focusing on giving value on all the sectors. So our free antenatal, free delivery service to our women that has benefited 82,888 women as at the last count, in fact, as at last week, and including cesarean operations, free antenatal, free delivery in Anambra today. Over 400 cesarean operations have gone on free in Anambra. And if I tell you, with almost zero maternal mortality, the case may be. And so we and then we get on to of course, recently we won the national championship on primary healthcare challenge. We won the best. We were declared the best in Southeast. We won $500,000 for that. We also become the national champion, the best in the country. We won 700,000 for that. We came home last week with $1.2 million as the best in the country, and so on. Our smart schools are on course, and our innovators in the business district. We just ravaged by flood and erosion. You see, Anambra's landmass is shrinking because we don't have, due to gully erosion. Lagos is expanding because they are reclaiming the ocean. Anambra has the second smallest landmass after Lagos. But ours, if you think about the landmass not encumbered by erosion, we actually we'll probably have the smallest because about 1/3 of our land is encumbered by erosion. But no excuses, no complaints, and so on. We're focusing on the challenges head on. And when we say, I guess I got to leave this open, open this up to questions, and we'll elaborate on a whole number of this. I think the summary is that we're very intentional every day of the week. We got to account for every hour, every minute of our stewardship. And just to tell in the Anambra, for me, this job is one with a deadline. And since it's an agenda with a deadline, we also pursue it with every vigor and commitment and passion that we can afford. And to ensure our mantra here is doing more with less. To show on the Anambra that every cover of their money in our hands will show them what it is being used for. And I think those who come home for Christmas at this period can actually move around, get around or can move around the states. I just drove from Obaru to Obaru this morning from Oka. And I think the look and feel is something you feel, you feel good a little bit. But for me, we're only just beginning. As we say in Igbo, we're only at the introductory stage. But I think I got to shut up now and listen more to you. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Governor, for that. We'll open up the lines for our participants to ask questions, make their contributions, but before that, we will set the ground rules so that we keep it fast and moving. The governor has graciously stay here on the spaces for an hour, 30 minutes, and we intend to keep it at that. With that, we are going to restrict all questions and comments to 1 minute each. So if you would love to ask a question, you use the buttons to request for a microphone, and the admins will bring you up once you ask your question. Make it succinct, make it direct, and use the proper conversational language. If you can do it in English language, if not, you can also permit using mother tongue or colloquial language. What do you call it? Pidgin English. All right. Then you can also send your questions as comments. The admins are monitoring all the comments. If you tag at Anambra New Media, or if you tag at CC Soludo and send your questions there, or drop your questions as comments here. Already we've received some, and in the due course we'll bring them up. Let me invite my co-host Amaka Eze de Bego in here. Amaka, over to you.
Okay, welcome everyone once again, and thank you, Mr. Governor, for the wonderful insights. Once again, would like to state that each question should not exceed 1 minute, just so that we can keep the time. Thank you so much. Okay, while we're waiting for the questions, Governor Soludo.
Yes.
You said, yes. Please, can you give us more explanation on Anambra State Local Government Law 2024? What are those common services between the state governments and the local governments?
Yes. No, thank you very much. The Anambra State, the local government law is an innovation. It's an innovation that many states are now also copying. It's an attempt to ensure that we have sustainable management of local government resources, that we can, get the resources of the local government to get down to work for the people in a sustainable manner. And I gave you a context. Before the 1999 Constitution that actually created joint accounts and all of that, part of the chaos you have, first and foremost, Nigeria is the only federation in the world where you have a separate local government as a separate tier of government, as a federating unit. Nowhere else. Each federation, the local authorities, each federating unit creates the kind of local government administration that is best suitable to it. We copied the American Constitution, and in America, you don't have local councils going to the Washington to collect resources on their own. They are under the state legislature that legislates how these things operate. But in our own case here, we have now a process where resources are going to be channeled to the local governments directly, which is fine. I agree to that. At least we know what gets there. The question is, when it gets there, what happens to the money? Is it the chairman that should spend it as he wants, or what? The money that gets to the states, the governor doesn't spend it as it wants. You have the state legislature that will make laws to how that is spent. The one that gets to the federal government, the president doesn't spend as he wants. You've got to go to National Assembly, to determine how you spend it. Unfortunately, with regards to the local systems, what we have in Nigeria is that part of the responsibilities given to local governments is the issue of primary health, primary education, and so on and so forth. And so what you find is that all the primary school teachers are pooled together in a common pool and paid jointly. Because before 1999 Constitution came into effect, what used to happen was that you come into a state, some local governments pay their primary school teachers and some don't. In fact, here in Anambra, there is one local government that was at some point owing teachers, primary school teachers, 23 months of salary. 23 months of salary. And you find primary health people, pensioners who will be paid in some local government, not paid in the other. Their gratuity paid here, not paid in the other. And so, when you now have this pooling of funds, what the local government law here in Anambra says is, okay, listen, gentlemen, all our teachers are in a pool. Primary health teacher workers are in a pool. Even the staff of local government are in a pool. No local government has its own staff. You have local staff of local government service commission. So if you are working for the local government, you keep being posted from one local government to the other. You may even finish working with the local government system and never work in your own local government of origin. So we said, listen, okay, what happens to the pensioners who have worked in the local government system all their life and they are now pensioners? When monies are paid directly to the local governments, who then will have responsibility to pay pension to these pensioners? Number one. Number two, what about these teachers? These teachers are poor and they are being posted from one local government to the other. How do you pay them when each local government gets its own? You say to each local government, pay according to whether you can pay or not. What used to happen before will then happen again. There might be a month, one local government might decide, no, I don't have enough money, so I won't pay teacher salaries. Oh, no, I don't have enough money, so I won't pay their pension. And then it is the state government, when that local government goes bankrupt, it is the state government that will be called upon to bail it out. And so we say, you know what, we need to have a law, which the Constitution mandates the State House of Assembly to make laws for the finance, for the structure, organization, and administration of local governments, including their finance, how their finances should be managed. So in the wisdom of the State House of Assembly, we crafted a law that, listen, when you receive your monies, we then agree on what kind of resources, how much do we require to make sure that teachers are paid? primary school teachers are paid, that primary health workers are paid, that the pensioners from local government are paid, that the staff working in local government are paid. When we pull out all of this, it may come out to 10% of the total receipts. It may be 20, it may be 30, it may be 40, it may be whatever. Once we determine that, then each local government will contribute proportionate to their own receipt into the common pool, so that you use that and make sure that all teachers are paid, all local government workers are paid, their pensioners are paid, and so on and so forth. And then the rest of it, you can then take, the rest of it, the local government then prepares its own budget, collects its own internally generated revenue, and their councillors, the local government chairman or the mayor and their chairman and their councillors will now determine how they're going to use the remainder of their resources and so on. But to make sure that the teachers, pensioners, and primary health workers and so on are paid as first line charge, to avoid the catastrophe that happened before. In fact, there were examples when local government chairmen refused teachers being put to pay anymore. It is to avoid all of this that we have these common services that we pull together. I think it's quite a very good question that you asked this, and we're showing a clear example to the country of how this thing can happen and where resources must be. We have a competitive base, and where the local government becomes responsible and responsive. Thank you very much for this. I've just been, my attention has just been drawn that it might be better that I take down the questions and then respond, finally, instead of responding to each one as is asked. Maybe I will then, I will start taking notes now.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you so very much. Let me see if I can. There are a couple of questions on the comment section.
Hello?
So, yes, can you hear me?
Are you there?
I am. Can you hear me?
Hello, are you there?
Yes, Mr. Governor, we can hear you. Can you hear us?
Hello?
Hello? Hello,
Oh,
Mr. Governor.
maybe the network.
Hello?
Hello, yes?
Hello, we can hear you, sir.
Okay, okay. I'm not hearing from my okay. So if I can be taking down the questions, and then I will respond appropriately.
Okay. John Ifeanyi Chukwu had asked a question. His interest is knowing when Anambra is going to leave the national grid. What is the government's plan for the establishment of independent power plants in the states? There are comments on security, and then Martin Okorowo is interested in regional cooperation. His question is, at the level of Southeast governors, are there no ambitious projects jointly pursued? Are there no regional interests that will be beneficial to the generality of our people to stimulate trade being looked at? And while you take a note of that question, also answer it in connection with the newly established Southeast Development Commission. A question here wants to know when ANSIPA will transition to the Anambra State's Investment Development, I think, Council. Then there is a question about operationalizing the Anambra airports. Chukwu Diajemba asked if you can lobby the federal government to have 2 or 3 flights in Anambra Airport, since it's a cargo airport, whether it could be upgraded. Starting your day in one office, your teams was working with foreign airlines. What are the stands today as to the negotiations with foreign airlines? Yes, Chamaka, please bring up other questions.
Yeah, Ezekiel also wants to know where you're getting the money to finance all the projects that you've been working on. Uche Okoke also wants to know, they say that you're the father of ecumenism, so he wants to know the morale behind this honor. And also, I'd like to approve Nedu and his request to also ask his question. Please, a minute. Thank you.
Yes, Nedu, go ahead.
Nedu, you can speak now.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, all right. Good evening, Your Excellency, and our host and co-host and other listeners. Your Excellency, I want to ask a question on insecurity in Anambra State. With the look of things, it looks as if Anambra is the most insecure state in the southeast today. The look of things. Um, some days ago, you made a statement on Nnamdi Kanu and the issue of insecurity in Anambra. And you quoted, that the release of Nnamdi Kanu may not necessarily end insecurity in Anambra and Abibo. Now, um,
Hello?
Nedu, are you there?
It's like he's lost his voice.
Okay, I think his question is on insecurity. Maybe he wanted to elaborate on that, but I believe that the governor
hello?
had taken note.
Hello?
Yes, yes.
Can you
Hello?
summarize that question
Yes.
in
Yes.
30
Oh,
seconds?
sorry. Yes, it's I'm having connection problem. Now, based on the issue of insecurity. Hello, I'm getting a
Hello,
feedback.
yes, I'm hearing you.
All right, sir. So, based on the question of insecurity, I'm asking if the release of Nnamdi Kanu and
All right. Hello?
Okay, Nedu, we have to take the decision to put. I think the question is around insecurity, and then also maybe your thoughts on the release of Nnamdi Kanu. Nedu, thank you so very much for bringing those up. Amaka, is
Hello?
there any other person you want to bring up on the speaker list?
Yes,
Hello?
I'll be bringing up Anambra person Uche P. Okoye. So Uche, you can speak now. You're connected. Anambra person, please go ahead with your question. 1 minute, please. Thank you.
So, good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Hello?
you're loud and clear.
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay. All right, His Excellency. Good evening. My question is very simple. Ifite Oka has been a hotbed for insecurity in the last couple of years now, and young people who are schooling at Unizik and who reside there are suffering from heavy insecurity. And I could see that the entire border within Ifite is quite porous, from the other end to Amansi and the other end to immigration area, and of course the one that leads to Aroma. These 3 cardinal points are the points of entry and exit within this region. And the type of insecurity that happens here usually, either people coming into the some gangs coming into the place, committing crime and leaving this, the zone. So my question and also a suggestion is that, can we have a security post at these 3 points, at these 3 cardinal points within Ifite, which would make it very difficult for people to, come into the state, into the area and exit very easily? The insecurity in that zone has really crippled a lot of things and also affected the students in there. So that's my contribution on the first question.
Wonderful.
Yes, Mr. Governor, I think we could also take a stab at the questions you have thus far. Then after that, we could also take the next questions.
Any more?
Yeah, you could as well take a stab at the questions you have thus far, and then after that, we could take the next round of questions.
Hello, Mr. Governor. We can hear you.
You can hear me. Yes, I can't hear anything else. I think maybe it's...
Yes, Shima is saying you can take a stab at the questions so far, and then when you're done, we can pick a few more questions, and then we round up.
Oh, okay. Are you hearing me now?
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
Yes. Okay. If you can hear me, let me just take a couple of them. The first is IPP, the Anambra electricity law, and designed to create Anambra electricity market. It's now before the House of Assembly, and I am expecting that this will be passed within the Q1 quarter, the first quarter of next year. And that will open up the Anambra electricity market for competition and for private investors to come in and invest. But you will also know, as part of that, part of the challenge is actually dealing with transmission. There is still the issue of the infrastructure and where you come and so on. So when we talk about decoupling from the national grid, that's going to be quite a little long, medium-term agenda. In the short term, that's not the way you will have that. But different companies are going to come. There might be captive embedded power, captive power here and there. But the national grid in the short to medium term will still become the dominant source of power. But in the area of power, we're also diversifying here in Anambra, getting into the solar system from the point of view of government. Over 30,000 solar, street light and points have now been moved from there into solar. And, also getting into the gas market, because Anambra has abundance of gas, and how we get gas to be, piped around to energize independent power plants and captive or embedded power, especially to our industrial districts. These are part of the things we believe once we get our electricity law and the electricity market energized, that this will become operational. We expect private investment to come into this very significantly. That's number one. Number two, question is about regional cooperation. Yes, they've just constituted the leadership of the Southeast Development Commission, which Mark Okoye is the managing director. And we can only wait and see. Yes, at the level of Southeast Governance Forum, we've had this conversation about what can become game changers in terms of regional projects. We discussed issues of, such as the regional rail infrastructure as an illustration, for example. But there are also other areas that we can and we need to work on to have a one-stop shop for the entire, this is now my personal opinion, a one-stop shop for the entire region that you get to. And you'll be able to get a sense of what it takes to get things done in one state to the other. You don't need to go to the 5 states to get a sense of what that is. We are discussing rail possibility and how we piggyback on the federal rail master plan, as the case may be. So, and we're hoping that the commission would actually help to energize some of these regional infrastructure. But let us also see the commission take off and see also how it is funded. ANSIPA to transition. ANSIPA is not transitioning into anything, and we have the Anambra Development and Investment Corporation, which will have a law now before the State House of Assembly, and that will be a totally different agency, a different institution. It will become like our investment banking arm of ANSIPA, a different institution itself. ANSIPA will still maintain a status for investment promotion and protection, and get into that. Then our investment arm, our development and investment arm of government, which will become like, if you like, its own investment bank, will be ADIC, what we call the ADIC, Anambra Development and Investment Corporation. So two of them will exist side by side. Now, Chinua Achebe upgrading to international status, that's an ongoing conversation. At least as of recent, if you travel through there, you will see that we're having massive upgrade of the place. Even the road, access road to it, you can now drive straight on from the airport into the highway. We're re-asphalting, asphalting over 3 kilometers of it that had not been asphalted before. To even drive to the airways, we just awarded the contract, almost 2 billion last week. And if you see what is being done now, you see the boulevard, it's going to be wow to everybody. And then finishing up, protocol lounge, getting the ILS, the instrument landing system, re-energized or energized. Getting, if you like, finishing up the airport. Then conversation going about its international status. Yes, we would wish it to become a cargo airport, but it's not just to say it is a cargo airport. They will have to evaluate this, and that conversation had been initiated some months after I assumed office, before there was a change of government at the federal level. But I kept it at bay, pending when we are able to even put in place ourselves. We'll first of all finish with the basic infrastructure in the place, and we can then call on the federal authorities to come and inspect it, and probably upgrade its status to being an international airport. Then there is the question, where are you getting all the money to do all of this? Well, I don't know whether that's the question I get every day. Every day I get the same question. In fact, the Catholic Bishop of Oka Diocese, Bishop Ezokavo, says, after asking me the question 6 times, he says he won't be asking again. All he keeps seeing is seeing things happening all over the state, and everybody is saying, how do you get the money? But one thing I have to say, my background, is one thing I will talk about. It's something that I am, with all humility, I talk about. If we can get it done, then if we can't demonstrate how it can be done, then I will be disappointed even in myself. Our mantra here is doing more with less. Doing more with less. We've cut cost of governance. Check out our budget in terms of actual expenditure, not anybody announcing any bogus budget. But if you look at our budget, 2023, 2024, and now 2025, consistently, you will see that our capital budget is about 77% of our budget. Our capital is about 77%, living recurrent about 23%. And just one illustration, buying vehicles, buying all these frivolous, where I stay here, the government house, governor's lodge, the same chairs, the same curtains, the same everything. We spend literally not a dime trying to refurbish, trying to spend on all these ostentatious things. We don't have one, not even a bicycle for the first lady of Anambra, bought with the government money. No. Driving my personal vehicles that I came into government with. We came here and Anambra was spending about 137 million a month on facility management, cleaning of offices and so on. I said, this is crazy. What offices are they cleaning to spend 137 million a month? I'm just giving you this as an illustration. And I set up a committee. They came down with, they could do that now with 70-something million. I said, that's still crazy. For what? And they came down to 30-something. And then I did the arithmetic. And I said, listen, let's assume that was before the increase in minimum wage. This was 2022. And I said, let's assume we hire about, 200, some women and pay them minimum wage, 30,000 then. They come and clean these offices between 6:30 and maybe 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. Back to their shops and all the kind of thing, and we pay them minimum wage. Isn't that 6 million naira? And they said, yes, it will be 6 million. I said, add another 4 million for them to buy detergents and consumables. Isn't that 10 million? Somebody should explain to me why we should spend more than 10 million cleaning offices instead of 137 million. And the committee worked hard and they came back and said it can now be done with 11 million. And so we approved. And therefore, from 137 million to 11 million, that's savings of 126 million every month, coming down to 1.5 something billion a year savings just to clean offices. This is just the example of what I give you. Our procurement system, we are rated number 1 in terms of fiscal transparency in the country. The way we process award of contracts and so on. You come here and bid. We don't give contracts. You compete. Almost like what I call the reverse bazaar, the reverse auction. You go there and bid openly, and then the day of the opening, you see what everybody else has tendered. Then you go into negotiation. Then you offer your last price. And when you're offering your last price, you also know the other person will offer his own last price. So you better get down to the bare bones of what it will take you. And so what costs something, I hear what it equivalence of what we do, what it costs elsewhere. We're getting it done at, if you like, the bare bones, as it were. And we insist on execution. It takes quite a whole lot to getting these things done at the way that we do them. So the key is value for money, transparency, and single-minded focus on what is important for the people, rather than elite indulging themselves in waste and opulence and so on, so to speak. They would have told you that here we don't just give appointments to people just to loiter around. We ask, what value are you bringing to the Anambra? We don't just joke with it. I said to people, if you want me to give you appointment, you must have a deliverable that if we were to put you in front of the keke drivers or the bus drivers and tell them that what they contribute in a month will be given to you at the end of the month, you must be able to explain to them what value you are bringing to their lives that will warrant them giving you that payment. So it's value for money in a form that the state has not seen before. That's what it is all about. Then there is a question about ecumenism. Yes, the CCN branch of TAN, the Christian Association of Nigeria, and the Pentecostal Fellowship of Nigeria, Anambra chapter, both have recognized us. The CCN includes the Anglicans, the Methodists, the Salvation Army, and I think 2 other denominations. They gave me the award last year as Father of Ecumenism and Solution Governor of Anambra. And then the PFN sent me a beautiful note saying that they agreed with that. And this year they gave me their own special award as Icon of Societal Transformation and so on at the PFN, Pentecostal Fellowship. Now, listen, before I assumed office, I'm a Catholic. Okay. And as I was campaigning, there was one mantra all over the state. Everywhere I went to campaign, I saw all the 3 major denominations I saw them in blocks, canvassing for votes. But I was struck that when I went to both the Anglicans, the CCN, and the Pentecostal, there was this talk about, marginalization and this and that and so on and so forth. Somebody said, you can't build this kind of society of your dream without having a cohesive society. If you have a society where some people believe that they don't belong, then you will never be able to have the kind of progress that you want. It starts first with people agreeing that 2 or 3 persons cannot work together unless they agree. So now, yes, I asked people as well who made the complaint to tell me what the solution would be. Unfortunately, nobody ever gave me any solution. But when I came in, first and foremost, here in the government house, we pray every day. We start the day with prayers. And on Mondays, the Pentecostals lead us in morning service. On Tuesdays, the Anglicans lead us. And from Wednesdays, the Catholics do. And in terms of what we do, the appointments that we have made, and so on and so forth, I don't ask you how you worship, whether you go to church or you don't go to church, and whether you worship with your head on the floor and your legs up. What is important to me is what value can you deliver from the Anambra? Because I don't understand whether there is a Pentecostal or Anglican or Catholic way of tarring a road or of teaching mathematics in a school. And so, for example, when we recruited 8,115 teachers, we don't even care about your state of origin. It turns out that these 8,115 teachers are from 18 states of Nigeria. Because the interest of the Anambra child is to be taught by the best teacher in the world, not by the incompetent teacher from his church or from his village. No, no. Our priority is nothing but the best. And whatever will get the best, that's good enough for Anambra State. We are an A state. And so the way we have pursued this single-mindedly, I didn't even realize people notice this. People notice that we are focused on excellence. Excellence. Nothing but excellence. And so when these recognitions come, for me, it's a pleasant surprise because that's not what I set out. That's not my objective. It's just me being who I think Anambra is about. Anambra should be about competence. Anambra should be about excellence. And wherever we can get the excellence and competence, medical doctor, whether it's from India or from people get sick and they fly to India, they fly to the US, they're greeted. They don't ask how the medical doctor, whether the medical doctor goes to church or not. In fact, when they go to India, probably the person that will treat them might be a Hindu and not even a Christian. But you can't then Anambra. Anyway, insecurity. I mean, the question I didn't quite finish. I didn't hear him. When he quoted what I had said that somebody was talking about release of Nnamdi Kanu, and I said, and I'm glad he said it. I said it doesn't mean that it will necessarily end once you release Nnamdi Kanu. Insecurity will end. Nowhere. Before he was arrested, there was insecurity. I just said it at the very beginning. My father was kidnapped in 2009. Nnamdi Kanu was not incarcerated then. GUO was kidnapped. Poco Bros was kidnapped. The owner of Banex Plaza kidnapped, and so on and so forth. The who is who in Anambra were kidnapped between, I think, 2008, 2009, 2010. A lot of our big men were being kidnapped left, right, and center. Nnamdi Kanu was not in detention then. And now, what has exacerbated, I made a point that these animals have tested blood and they're not letting go. What has only added is that some people now went into the bush to say, oh, we are fighting Fulani herdsmen, we are fighting for Biafra. Under the guise of that, these are criminals, largely criminals. Nnamdi Kanu had dissociated himself from them. IPOB has dissociated itself from them, and yet they persist. They're involved in kidnapping, they are killing people, forcing sit at home. Why? Because it is lucrative criminality for them. It's lucrative. So these crimes were there before Nnamdi Kanu was arrested. And I'm not quite sure that just releasing him, they would disappear. Kidnapping, I'm not sure that Nnamdi Kanu sent them to go and start kidnapping people. They were kidnapping people before. More than 10 years before Nnamdi Kanu was arrested, they were already kidnapping. Who is who in this Anambra state had first one or the other? That's the point I was making. And for us to realize that, for Anambra people and the Southeast people to realize that this is lucrative criminality that all of us must stand up and fight against. Whether Nnamdi Kanu is out or not out, we must rise up and secure our homeland. But if you just take it, once Nnamdi Kanu comes out, the kidnappers that had been operating since mid 2000, 2005, 2006, 2007, 2008, 2009, when my father was kidnapped, or 2010, when I know 2009 was also the same year that Tony Mas was kidnapped. Nnamdi Kanu was not imprisoned then, was not arrested then. In fact, IPOB was not even born then. That's precisely the point, that we have a bigger challenge that we need to face as a people to secure Southeast. The same security thing, I mean, when you said it looks like Anambra is the most insecure, well, that is perception. It's not, I don't know where the statistics, that's this institutionalization and the social media. Whenever you have one case there, the way it is sensationalized and so on. I just seen one statistics that shows Anambra having the least in terms of payments of ransom and so on and so forth. And my view is not even one person should be kidnapped. When you look at the data, but you might talk about perception. Some people, depending on who you ask, some people think this is now, Anambra has never been safer than before. And some other persons, oh, there's one kidnap incident there. That's what's sensationalized everywhere. I take the point about Ifitoka, and I will assure you that exactly what you have proposed, that's what our security team are working on. And in the next few days, you will see what you have said will be up and running around there. And even more than that, we're not just only going to stop them from coming in and so on. We'll go after them and go to pick them up from wherever they are, because we must take them out of completely. We must secure this state. And the people living around Ifite must be able to sleep with their two eyes closed. But I must also urge them, because some of these people, even within that area, they know them. Some of these criminals, particularly those of them who belong to some cults, the cultists, some of whom are students themselves, some of whom are into all kinds of things, who live around there, they know who they are. And we have now advertised some toll-free numbers that people can call and tell us, these numbers are with us. For example, 5111, we have 112, and we have 080022 080 00008. These numbers will be making public. In fact, in all our vehicles that will be patrolling under Operation Udogachi, all these numbers are put on them. So if you know anybody who is part of this criminal gang, they are just criminals. They are criminals. Send that to us. Give us information about the person. We'll go and take him out. And some other people will have their peace. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I confirm has asked about your promise to take Aberos off Anambra streets, but it seems that the menace is getting worse. Um, there's a question here about technical and vocational education. The questioner wants to know whether you have plans to streamline their syllabus, to also reinvigorate that, and then partner with federal and private institutions to introduce cutting-edge academic syllabus to sustain future economic development in the states. I'm not sure you answered the question about regional cooperation in the Southeast, especially as it regards partnership between the 5 Southeastern states, whether there is a collective project you're designing and implementing, and how that will also benefit from the newly instituted Southeast Development Commission. There's a question from Ihiala. People from Asia, Lilu, Ihembosi, and Ihiala Axis included in your plans. They are talking about there is no single health facility. I doubt that claim, but again, I'll leave it to you to respond. It's talking about no single health facility, and then they are talking about insecurity in Ihiala and all of those axes of the states. There is a question from about electricity. They are saying, how can the states perhaps attract private firms to go into solar solutions for homes and businesses in a more friendly and flexible payment and acquisition method, while expecting that our share of power from the national grid goes into manufacturing sector, and that this will help with your solution industrialization agenda. Then the question is there about using local government councils to do a coordinated security approach and leverage the traditional institution for their operatives to minimize the issue of sabotage within security system in view of how lucrative, according to you, that criminality has been. I have more questions here, but while I try to catch my breath, Amaka, could you please also see if you can bring up 1 or 2 more questioners, and then see if you can also read some of the questions from your end.
Okay, thank you so much, Shima. Someone is congratulating Mr. Governor on his administration's double win at the just concluded National Primary Healthcare Leadership Challenge, where Anambra State became $1.2 million richer in a day. So he wants to know if there is any overview on that. Also, I'll be granting access to a couple of persons to go ahead and ask their questions for this final round before we round off. Thank you.
Okay. Am I supposed to respond now?
If you give us
Just
a minute, we will bring in a few questioners on board,
Okay.
and then yes, please.
Okay, then go ahead.
okay, Alex Onya. I've granted you access. Please go ahead with your question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Um, Good evening, everyone. So I have a question and also a suggestion. So currently, I and my team, we are conducting a very intense research on 5 states, and one of the states is Anambra State. And we've gone through almost everywhere. So there are so many places that we've seen, and it's on the state of schools. I mean, our core focus is on K to 12. The state of schools in different places like Ihiala and many other places actually in Anambra State are really in an extremely poor condition. Of course, there are some schools that are fair. There are some schools that are okay. There are some that are very, very bad. There are places that students don't even go to school. There are other places that I see that flooding is a very big issue. I think they even have a different academic calendar. I want to know I'm not from Anambra, but I'm interested in what happens in Anambra. So I want what you are doing to see how you can actually get everybody up to speed. Secondly, in terms of security, I believe you have qualified team that does a lot of things. But I noticed something that our own governor is doing here in Enugu. He's making some intentional investment in massive CCTV securities around the city here, and I think he's extending it across the state. I don't know if it's something you've thought of exploring, because if you can be able to have proper surveillance, because I don't think there's any growing city in this world that hasn't invested heavily on surveillance. If you have that, I think that can really, really help. Even if something happens, it may never happen again, because whenever you are chasing criminals, you can actually study the pattern and also know exactly what is happening. So this is my suggestion, and the first is my question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Alex Onya. Please, going forward, I'd like us to stick to the 1 minute time that we uh said for the questions. Uchenna, please, we've granted you access. Please go ahead with your question. Thank you. Uchenna, if you can hear me, we've granted you access. Please go ahead with your question.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Good evening, my governor.
Good evening to you, Chenna.
Ah, thank you. So I want to go straight to the question. My governor, thank you for the beautiful work you've been doing. I'm just thinking ahead. Do you have a sustainable plan for the things you have put in place? How do you think this will hold on when you leave the office? Are you thinking about that? Because obviously, after 8 years, you will be out. What are the sustainable plans that you are thinking about so that all the things you've done will be sustained? Thank you.
Thank you.
While the next speaker is coming up, there is a comment here from Udoka Ugoke. The complaint is about the military checkpoints after Unizik main gates, that they waste travelers' time and sometimes keep them up to 2 hours or more. According to him, he stayed there for long yesterday when he was going to Enugu. A questioner is interested in knowing about your plans, especially for medical supplies in our hospitals. He used a specific word, oxygen, but I do know that that reflects all of the other medical consumables in our hospitals, and not just infrastructure, which is also equally important. Yes, Amaka, back to you.
Okay, thank you so much. Stephanie, we've granted you access. Please go ahead with your question.
Oh wow, I didn't know that. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak. His Excellency, good afternoon, sir.
Good evening. Yeah.
Oh, good evening, sir. Yeah,
I'm
good
sure
evening.
you are in the afternoon.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And
Yeah.
I really appreciate you having bringing, with your busy schedule and everything, creating time to be able to have conversation with us. We really appreciate it.
Thank
So
you.
you're welcome. I'm from Enugu. I'm from Enugu anyway, but we are all one anyway.
Yes.
Yeah. So we are one. So
Yes.
my main question is, like basically how we have Anambra, Enugu, Imo, Abia, and Ebonyi states, right? Like 5 states.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys, like the governors of these 5 states, do you guys have that meeting where like you discuss on how to enable our environment in general, how to protect our place, how to unite us, how how to have a platform where citizens can, share their ideas, and you guys can go back, after receiving the ideas, go back and work together and see how we can, improve our environment so that our people won't be running away to all this abroad. I don't like this abroad that we are all running to. It's like people being homeless. You understand that kind of a thing. So I want in a way whereby we can start, thinking about how to enable our environment for people to start coming home. That's number one. Number two is about this justice, what they call that thing, jungle justice. Your Excellency, please. I really, really want you to look into jungle justice. The way people get burnt for just stealing something that is 1 naira. Please, I want us to follow laws. That's all I can contribute. And if you can help us look into it. Thank you, sir. And I won't take your time anymore. Thank you.
Thank you. No. Thanks immensely. I have had my primary residence in Nigeria since the 90s. Yes?
Yes, beautiful. So there is the question here. What has happened to the report of the NSAS panel? Additionally, could you provide updates on the implementation status of the Chidio Dinkalo panel committee? Questions, or do you want the governor to take this batch of questions and we'll see what we'll make out of the remaining time?
Okay, I think I just have one person that I've granted access. Once he's done, Mr. Governor can go ahead and take on all the questions that have been asked so far. Thank you so much. So, Chris, you've been granted access. Please go ahead with your question, and then we'll round up with that.
Chris, are you there? While Chris is waiting, another here says some people have indicated interest in investing in the states, but have complained bitterly about ease of doing business and access to the government being difficult. How does he plan to make Anambra State the business destination if he doesn't grant access to potential investors? Also, do you have a policy document on this ease of doing business? Have Stephanie there? Okay, while we're waiting for that, Mr. Governor, you can go ahead and take this batch of questions. And
that's no, thanks immensely. This is quite very, very rich and engaging set of questions. I think, Chim, maybe I missed you, or you. And I did answer to that yes, in our governance forum, Southeast Governance Forum, we do discuss regional cooperation, regional projects, and the major example I gave you was the issue of regional rail project, and which we are looking at, and that having the Southeast Development Commission come on board is a welcome development. That process of regional projects going forward. And that was the point that I made. And so it's an ongoing matter among the governors, and the Southeast Development Commission will only deepen it. Now, on the points made, our boroughs, well, it all depends again on where you are sitting, whether it's getting worse or it's getting better. When I was campaigning, the only thing that everybody asked me in Onitsha, the whole of Onitsha, I campaigned through all the markets. There was only one thing. All the crowd will come. There's only one thing they will be shouting. Just kick Arboros out for us. Don't do anything more for us. And remember, and Niger Street roads done. The traders that gathered there, it was only chants of gratitude. They were now telling me that traders have now started coming back. In fact, they specifically mentioned, one of them shouted, Ogun. Shouted, they are now coming back from the north again. This and so on and so forth to buy at Onitsha. And these are traders that had all gone away because Arboros were harassed through Opiweka and so on. With the Sasa in town, they said that the fear of Sasa by these Arboros is the beginning of wisdom. But does it mean that all the Arboros are gone? Of course not. This is a state where you have an influx, massive influx from, well, you guess, more than 70% of them are not from Anambra State. In fact, more than 80% are not from Anambra State. And people are flooding into Anambra as a place to go and make money. And you ask them, what are you going there to do? I'm going there to hustle. What are they going to hustle? It's just to show up in the street and start harassing people. That's basically what they are in. So as you chase them, as you people taking them out, more are showing up, and they're very unrelenting matter. I get on my phone every day. Tens of them are arrested and being dealt with, some being detained. Correctional centers where they are being detained, going up in seams. Where do you keep them and so on? And we're now rehabilitating places where we'll continue to keep them as you arrest them before they go for trial. Is it better than what it was when we arrived here? Obviously, I am not the governor that just sits in the lodge or in the office. I walk the streets. I go to Onitsha and I take a walk and I stop by and address the people. I stop by in markets and immediately there will be a town hall meeting and you get instant feedback. So I don't depend on social media. And then that means Arboro is everywhere. No, I go to the people and I get their feedback directly. In fact, at Opiweka, the time there was a large crowd, more than 2,000 of them, within minutes. And that was the only thing they were just saying was, thank you for kicking Arboro out of the place. But are they fully out? No, they're everywhere in all the markets. That's their, for several of them, they don't know any. Come out will help to retrain you and give you a life, so to speak. Now, technical vocational education, yes. Let me share this with you. This is a very important subject. Very, very important subject. I come from the academia. I happen to be a professor of economics who has also spent time of issue of scale, upgrading, and so on. I've just told you we recruited 8,515 teachers competitively for a talking issue about quality assurance, giving people skills, 1U, 2 skills. Now, the federal government has adopted the Anambra's model of 1U, 2 skills, to mainstream in the country. And, but in the area of schools, 15, 18 of them are. We've advertised twice for qualified technical teachers to teach several of the technical subjects. So it's not about the problem, it's not about syllabus. It's where do you even get the teachers to teach them? That's the fundamental problem. We've advertised twice now, and I can tell you, you don't have the teachers to teach these subjects. And that's why when I hear people everywhere, everybody is setting up skill acquisition center. And the first thing I ask them is, where do you get the teachers to teach in those places? Like people setting up universities all over the place. Some of them are glorified secondary schools. Where do you get the teachers? Where are you getting the professors? What are you going to pay them to be able to attract and retain the best to teach in those places? So we have a fundamental problem, the skill gap, that yes, we need this vocational stuff, but the other thing is, where do you even get the people who will teach in those places? And that's why part of the thing we are considering is actually setting up what we call finishing school, where we could then concentrate and begin where we would have a school where we train the trainers, where we'll now train that will become the supply for these future vocational schools and so on and so forth. You're advertising to get people who are going to teach people to do plumbing, for example, electrical wiring and all of that. And, basics. And you don't have people applying. Those who apply are not the ones, they don't even, some of them can't write their name, but they tell you, oh, he has been doing this. He doesn't understand the principles behind what they are doing, and they want to teach others. So it is something that we are very, very serious about, but I also know what the constraint is, and we want to now tackle it from the root, and that is getting the first gate of people where you train the trainers to be able to populate these schools. Ebonesie, the question from Lilo, Azia, Sumohu, and Mbosi, and so on. Well, if the questioner is living in any of those places, he must know that that area has been, we've been having almost like a war in that area that is ongoing. Lilu, we now have, we hear a local government, particularly, total Ihiala, no-go area. Nobody could go there to even do a campaign or gather people anywhere. In fact, it was only in Ihiala local government that the election could not hold on the 6th of November when my election was held. There was no election in Ihiala. It had to be held in a different day on the 9th of November. Why? Because the entire local government was, much of it has been retrieved. Ebonesie, particularly, what we call the Ebonesie, the Bulisus or the Mbose, Lilu, Asia, Iseke, Osumohu, and so on and so forth. Osumohu, as you know, has born they are what they call the Mother Valley. They are headquarters of these criminals. So on. Lilu, I received a major delegation of the entire leadership of Lilu, that requested for us to send them what we call FOB, free on board, combined team of soldiers, Navy, police, our vigilante service and civil defense and so on, who are now stationed in Lilu. These guys even cut off the roads so that nobody could drive in or out. And they lay up these improvised explosive devices all over the place. If you put it in a car, it will explode. And we dare say to the citizens, the indigents, is with connivance with the people, because nobody is going to fly in from Adamawa and come to your community and set up these things without complicity of the indigents. Nowhere. So rise and get these people to become their members, and the members, the citizens, the indigents there take those. But I'm glad that the people themselves are now beginning to rise up. As government, we've been determined to make sure that these places are rescued, and we are determined to rescue them. But it takes two to tango. We're asking the indigents of this community, glad some of them have now risen up to the occasion as well. I got calls 2 weeks ago. Some of them are even putting together resources to do their own part. Government has almost, in Ihiala local government, the stations of this thing that we have, which we pay for, that are stationed in here local government alone. There is no other local government that will have half of that. And retrieve these people from the hoodlums that are in the place, so to speak. When you talk about the health facility, well, I'm not quite sure how far you have your, I mean, whoever said that, I don't know where you have traveled to and so on, but I will check this out with the Commissioner for Health, because what you're saying cannot obviously be true. Because these bad boys wouldn't let the health workers to operate, then I will get the report. But everywhere else, we're very, very deliberate in making sure that nobody is left behind. But all I can say is that this Ebones here, these communities in Ihiala, it's just to say to them that it's not just that help is on the way, help is already there, but we are tripling communities to rise up to take back their homeland. Nobody will secure it on a sustainable basis without your participation. Nobody. Because the army will not be there forever. The police will not be stationed there forever. They can only help clear out these guys, and your people must rise up and take over your place. And also pick out the bad eggs amongst you. There is a question about attracting firms for solar power through attractive payments and whatever. Listen, our place is open. Anybody, if it is worth an investment, Anambra is, I don't know, very few places with better attractive investment environment than Anambra. There is money here. And that is why everybody wants to come to Anambra. Go and check out even whether it is MTN or this call, these things, and see the expenditure state by state. I'm sure you won't count 5 states or 5 locations in the country without counting Anambra. There is money here. And therefore, the solar business, and there are people who want to relocate their solar plants, factories, to manufacture. Demand is heavy. Private individuals are investing in the places and putting in private individuals are investing in the places and putting solar panels, solar street lights in their respective communities, so to speak. So we are not government is not going to begin to say to you, okay, you come and you have a monopoly. And as a solar company, once you come, then you become the monopoly in the state. No, it's a free market. You come here, you'll be able to get your very good. Then the state government will patronize you. But we're going to patronize you in a competitive basis. You must be able to compete with other companies that also, provide value, so to speak. Now, using local government councils and traditional rulers to fight security, that's precisely what this whole fight is about. As we said, you can't do it. By the way, our vigilante law sets up the traditional rulers and the president generals as the chairman and secretary, respectively, of the security committees of each community. And so we're not doing it in spite of them. Indeed, for now, it is the mayors in the local government who are actually leading the weekly anti-SITA respective local governments. leading the security agencies to have pinned down operations, strategic locations and markets in their local governments, and so on. So we're mobilizing the communities to be take charge. And besides, also, we're now vetting the community vigilante personnel in each community, and government will some stipend for about 20 of those in each community. So you can't secure any community without the participation of that community. That is a fundamental principle. And Lex, well, somebody talked about the grant, the prize that we won, $1.2 million. Wow. We're looking forward to winning. And that's only a beginning. And thank you very much. Alex, yeah, you talked about CCTVs. We're also investing heavily in that in the cities in terms of surveillance. We're piloting that around Onisha now. If you go around all our places, we won't even tell you where they are, which specific places. But on the phone, you can now monitor several major spots. So we get into that, where we'll be mainstreaming that around other cities in Anambra. See, part of the fundamental difference between Anambra and many states is that Anambra has got, almost 70% of Anambra, about 70%, 72% of Anambra is urbanized. It's one. The issue of rural urban is quite minimal. And we have major cities. Onitsha is the largest city in the southeast, but it's not the capital of Anambra. In terms of investment. But we have now set out an agenda to systematically link up all these cities and semi-major cities as one huge urban stuff. We're investing heavily on this surveillance but when we formally launch our operation Udogachi, I think several of these aspects of our architecture will be, we'll speak about them without spelling out the full details of how they operate. And so, yes, the surveillance is a very key thing, but we don't say much. If we tell you the number of people who are being apprehended on a daily basis, you wouldn't. So you're absolutely right. We've got the good, the bad, the ugly. And some are excellent, some are okay, some are bad. No question about that. They have presented to us in Executive Council the state of the schools. And we've seen the state of their infrastructure one by one, each school, which any one of them is. If you mention any school now, we can pull it up and show you the pictures of how they look like in terms of their infrastructure. But that's fact is for us the beginning, because if you can't measure it, you cannot improve it. And that's why we're very systematic, very deliberate in improving the infrastructure of the existing ones. Over 200 of them have received some fundamental touch or the other. But that's not all. In the coming year and even years, we will still methodically and systematically keep on improving them. We're still also investing in the area of smart schools on an illustrative basis. on a very sustainable manner where the improvement in infrastructure by investment and improvement in the skills of teachers, because there is no smart school without smart teachers. I mean, that's the teachers make a school. You could have learning outcomes very high with children under a tree, but having a super qualified teacher in front of them, electrified, school with every facility in the world, in the place. If you have a moron as a teacher in front of the students, the learning outcome will be nothing, will be zero. So for us, it's about learning outcomes. What are these children learning? And that's why our first port of call was to say, hey, whatever the state of infrastructure in these schools, the very first business is to put quality upgrading their skills in front of these children. That's the first order of business. When, as a child, immediately after the Nigerian Civil War, all our schools, most of them were, vandalized by soldiers, both the Nigerian soldiers and Biafran soldiers. The schools were in very terrible conditions. Some were studying under Melina and so on and so forth. We went to school, five teachers in front of us, and the learning outcomes were super, so to speak. And so for me, therefore, the infrastructure will keep on upgrading. Yes, the riverine areas have a different calendar because of the seasons. When the river overflows, the schools are not in session. So they have a different family academic calendar, as it were, because of, unfortunately, the environment in which they find themselves. Now, sustainable plan for the solution agenda and how to now sustain what we are doing after I leave office. Thank you very much, Uchenna. I think my
Okay, so we'll just
Yes.
get Mr. Governor to give his closing bit, and we'll just close it for the day.
Yes, please. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm just, are you hearing me?
Yes, we
Yes,
can hear
Mr.
you.
Governor, can hear you.
Okay, yeah, because I was responding to one of the questions about sustainability, and then the thing kept tripping off again. I don't know if we just close up at this point or continue. But there are questions about sustainability of the agenda, which for me, like I said, we'll leave that to the future and the hands of the people. For mine is to focus on what we deliver, the value we deliver to the people today, and leave the rest to the future, and the decision by the people. This is a democracy. On the military checkpoints at UNIZIC, after UNIZIC also, I must tell you that today I had to personally intervene on that matter. And the military, I drew the attention to the commander and, for them to ease off the tension there. I know it's a catch-22. The influx, the traffic also comes, you come with the good, the bad, the ugly. But I've told them we shouldn't be afraid of death and then end up committing suicide. We must, prioritize the welfare of the innocent people, and so to speak, while we're trying to keep the hoodlums out of the way. Because this kind of season is also when they also exploit the massive traffic, to traffic all kinds of things into the state. which they couldn't take on ordinary times. So that is being worked upon. Medical supplies, I can tell you, Anambra hasn't had it so good, better than it is having today, and so on. You see, so our oxygen plant is up and about and running. We've resourced it very well. You know, we have an oxygen plant here. There is also the private sector bit, and we'll have to look into that and be sure that there is supply of oxygen. Now you draw my attention to this. I think I've answered the issue of whether governors do meet to discuss governors of Southeast to discuss this. I feel deeply about this question that you raised about even people in diaspora not feeling very comfortable about being there. And I happen to be diaspora myself in some 12 years gallivanting around the world. Then I lived in Ethiopia, lived in the UK, US, and traveled to 45 other countries before I was asked to come and join government. And even in 2003, even since then, I had gone to another additional 19 countries, bringing it to about 64. Literally gallivanting around. My family, I had to evacuate them out in 6. I had to evacuate them out of Nigeria because of threats to their lives, insecurity, as it were, in 2006 into the UK. We're not very happy about that. I would like to be here. And that's why my focus here in Anambra has been to build a livable and prosperous homeland, a place where if our people, as itinerant people, happy to return to as a happy and livable place to stay. At the regional level, that is our concern, I must say. And even though each state has got its own peculiar things that they need to deal with, but at the regional level, I'm sure my colleagues are also committed to the same agenda. Jungle justice, following the laws to a very large extent. I mean, and I can't rule out the fact that occasionally you might find people take laws into their hands, as you also find elsewhere in the rest of the world. When you find some of these, even in the US there, where most people bear arms, and you find people get something to shoot. And some people get sufficiently angry by their teacher in their school, they go and load a gun and then they go to the school, shoot the teacher, and shoot others, and so on and so forth. So you might find occasional excess, as it were, but it's not a deliberate state policy, to get into jungle justice. But having said that, you also push people to the extreme, because some of these criminals they're not amending to rule of law when their own actions. When you find some of these brutal criminals, kidnappers, and they find them, they kidnap people, they even behead them and be playing football with the heads and so on. And somebody ever gets to it's like the fury that goes with that. You may never be able to control the reaction that people are going to exhibit. So, yes, jungle justice should be out of the way. But like I said, some oftentimes it does happen. Talking about the report of the NSAS panel and all of that, that was office. Yeah, I think that was some years before I assumed office. I'm sure they would have dealt with us as it were. On Chido Dinkalo's report, we'll take that report very seriously. Because several of the things we're doing in the area of security and so on, deriving from that report. We'll set up the Bureau of Missing Persons, our structure to that particular bureau, as it were, and trying to document who and where we are, where are we coming from, and where we're going. This is something that we want to be intentional about. And I think one of the major findings for us there, which is helping us with our land reforms, is to understand that much of the criminality and violence linked to land. All these cultism, the wars that you find here and there, intercult wars, and so on, much of it linked to struggle for land, as it were. And it's helping in terms of the way that we intervene in that sector. Well, the people who have interest in investing in the state, that's quite funny. When the person just says it, ask the person what the person specifically means. What does the person mean by ease of doing business? What exactly does the person want that it doesn't have? Say have access. Access to what? Is it access to capital, or is it access to land, or is it access to what? When we have reduced the number for you to transfer land titles to a matter of hours and days, so to speak, what is it that you have interest in? Or except those who are involved in who are land speculators, who want government to give them land and they hog it and then sell. Because in Anambra, land is diamond gold. Other than that, several people who are investing massively in the state, building super mega industries. Maybe in the next month or two, we'll be going to commission one of the car manufacturing companies again, the existing one expanding massively, and the new industries here and there waiting for commissioning. I have my calendar getting full now. The invitation is investment or commission the other. So that's why I find it funny. The person is sitting there waiting, talking about ease of doing. What specific thing does the person have? What is it that is hampering him from doing business? I mean, the Oka shopping mall will soon be completed. There are some with estates, about 7 of them we've contracted with. Some, I think, their funds put together, massively now constructed. We have the pharmaceutical mall being constructed. It's all private investors who are investing in those places and constructing all these things massively. So that's why I kind of laughed when somebody says, "Oh, ease of doing." I don't know what the person means. Business that I know of. If you have an issue, call me directly and tell me what the issue is, provided the person is genuine and we can show us the fund, show us your money, show us the color of the money, and we're prepared to come and receive the investor at the airport and take him to the location. So I don't know whether is there any other?
Yes, there are many more questions, but then because we are out of time, maybe I could highlight a few that I consider pertinent, and then maybe you also make a note of it. If you want, you can respond. If you also want, you can respond in terms of action after the spaces. So as an indigene of Anambra State, according to due dates, I would love to kindly know when Anambra State bursary for we see the work you're doing in beautifying the landscape. Thank you. However, there's still a lot of sand collected on the sideline, and it impedes on the beauty and makes Anambra look very unkempt. What is the plan with Aswama on this? Charles is interested in, he says there's a road in Ihiala called Nital Road. The condition of this road makes it safe haven for criminals called Nital Road in Ihiala. Good evening, sir. What are your plans towards Nokwa Adazeno Akweze Road, which you awarded since last 2 years, and you promised that the construction of that road will only last for 18 months? And to our greatest surprise, the work has been abandoned since. Why? A document prepared by UBEC, Universal Basic Education, in March 2024, showing state-by-state matching indicated that Anambra and Ebonyi states jointly failed to assess the sum of 2.6 billion naira each, being the accumulated sum from 2021 to 2023. How is has Anambra state government started accessing UBEC fund, and what purpose, why is that there a delay? The continued detention of Mazen Nnamdi Kanu, according to Kachi, and the recent arrest of Simon Ekpa, and an opportunity for goodwill actors to step in and engage Igbo youths positively. How is Anambra state government planning to exploit this vacuum to provide engagement and alternative narratives? Your Excellency, what are your administration's plan, that's from Ifechukwu Obuagu, to digitize the education sector and leverage tech to ensure every child in the state has access to quality education and remains road and dropout prevention? The last but not the least is from Izuchukwu Ochuba. Good evening, sir. I do my business at Relief Market in Onitsha, also known as Obaru Main Market. The road by Relief Markets that connects Onitsha Enugu Express Road with Onitsha Owerri Road, the gutter by Relief Market has been bad. It's currently under repair, but the quality of the construction is below par. These are the much we document a lot of the comments from the crash Twitter spaces and this one, and then we'll compile them and send to you so that you can action those that need action. Amaka, I'll pass the mic back to you for, okay, the governor, if you want, you can respond to any of these, but it's totally up to you. But from the conversation so far, it seems like you're enjoying yourself and having a very beautiful evening.
Oh, yes, I am. I'm having fun, and I just wish this a real conversation. This is the kind of thing I love to engage in, because real feedback. I told you I do walk the streets, and when I tell our people, I say it in Igbo, I'm on the street. I go to the markets, I go to the local markets, stop out there and get instant feedback from the people. But getting this one, our people all over, some calling from diaspora, very, very enriching. And some, yes, some we need to provide quite high information. For example, on the bursary one, that's very good. That's for 2025. We will announce the details and the timeline and for registration and so on when we get into 2025. Now, on the sand along, I drove all the way from Ekusigo and Ozobolo when I went to Atane today in Obaru. I drove through the Atane Ozobolo road and hit the Owerri Onisha highway and driving all through, now you have the media, painted black and white, and along those We need to clear off those very quickly and make them, really look nice. Ihiala, Nitel Road. Well, we'll look into that. To me about 5 roads they consider. I asked them to rank the roads they needed done in order of priority, and they ranked them, I think, number 1 to 5. And we've taken on the first one, awarded it, and that's ongoing. The Nitel Road will take a look at that and see where that comes in the prioritization given by. Yes, we're doing about 700 kilometers. But let me be clear that even if you take the entire resources of the state to one local government in Anambra, you will not be able to finish doing the roads in that local government. So we are very intentional and very strategic in picking these and making sure that we spread it across as much as possible to touch the 21 local governments in Anambra simultaneously. I mean, accumulated areas. So it's looking like connection was lost, reconnecting. Okay, maybe connected back. We had to clear about 3 years accumulated areas of UBEC counterpart funding. And we've deployed that. We have now, I think, 2023. We will be clearing as well very shortly to be fully up to date in terms of accessing that. When we came, I think 3-4 years were in areas that were not extending. Yes, the detention of Namagano Simon Epa opportunity to engage the youth. Quite frankly, we have born here in Anambra. Despite whatever those guys were doing, we have, and when we have our 1U2 skills program, and you have, recently we had our 2nd anniversary of the annual youth conference. And at the annual youth conference, we found about 6,000 youths here. That's our day of engagement. Question and answer, Q&A, interactive session with the Anambra youths. And with our youths here in Anambra to begin a new conversation. We'll call it opportunities, new opportunities for them to engage in meaningful life beyond, criminality, as it were. To digitize education, that is top-notch priority for us, tracking enrollment, getting every child an ID from kindergarten to which we're embarking on the new year very seriously. There have been some forms of digitization of various, categories of digitization, but not yet synchronized in a form that we would want to have it. Well, the road by relief market, Obaru, good to know about it, just among others. I'm probably the person doing it is doing a good job. We'll draw the attention of the mayor there to go, and Ministry of Works to go and inspect that road and get back to us, and let's see what it is. Anything that we spend government money, this is the kind of feedback that will require. If we spend government money, we expect nothing but top-notch quality. And if that is not being delivered, we hold it. No if and buts about it, because And while on this, I said something about this road thing. We have very clear criteria for deciding which roads we pick as priorities. You know, in the past, and which is normal, patronage, you know, stakeholder pressure, everybody wants the road to be done. That is natural for people to demand for this. But our criteria for choosing which road we prioritize, they will depend on A, the traffic count, what's and connectivity, the strategic nature of this road. Maybe it takes you to some agricultural zones, people who have never seen one square. Open up the whole area, open up a vista of opportunity for farmers, for businesses, and so on and so forth. Today, all around Anambra, various communities that have been connected, you see the value of their wealth going up by hundreds of percent. Locations where a plot of land used to sell for 100,000 is now 5, 6, 7 million. Road to the place, and several other such. But economic interest is one. The issue of traffic count is a major one. How strategic, especially the ones that connect one local government to the other, or connect communities that are very, very strategic together, and therefore easy use in selecting which one gets first priority, which one gets second priority, and which one we have to say, okay, KIV, keep in view when resources permit. We're also implementing zero potholes. With zero potholes, we've put back more than 400 kilometers of road back in use, in motorable condition that people can now apply them. That's in addition new roads that were doing and completed about 400 kilometers. So this is a state of emergency for us, and we're deploying everything that we get. So this one, Relief Market and the Nokwa, Akwes, Adazian, whatever road, we're going to get into it because that road have been completed by now. I'll find out why that is. If the contractor is not up to it, we'll take him out and put in a new one because our people cannot wait. Hello?
Yes,
Yes.
yes. Thank
We can hear you.
Yes. Other than this, to say, I don't know if we are concluding, but just to say thank you to all evening, and I end with where I started, which is to wish you all a very, very merry Christmas, a joyous Christmas. If you are not yet in Anambra, Anambra is safe for you. By the way, somebody talking about hospitals in health in Ihiala local government, doctors and the number of nurses there, and also the primary health centers and the place, and so on. Several of the Omuatuegu primary health center and Oharebu health center, and so on and so forth. All these are here local government. So with clear, it's leave no one behind. We are intentional about it. We will leave no side of Anambra nowhere behind, including, I don't just say including, everywhere. We're leaving nowhere behind in all sectors. And the traffic is already building massively everywhere. The Christmas is already bubbling. Look forward to seeing most of you around, because I will be moving around and eating Christmas rice all over the state. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Governor. And with this, we draw a curtain to this virtual interaction with Mr. Governor. Over the past 2.5 hours, we've been with Professor Charles Chukwuma Soludo. His 32-month-long stewardship. We discussed issues ranging from the 5 pillars of